We're talking Conn Smythe favorites there. And you can see the odds going across the bottom of the screen. Sergei Bobrovsky currently and Alexander Barkov at plus 450 are the odds on favorites. After McDavid, who's at plus 220. Then you got Matthew Tkachuk at 550, Evan Bouchard and Leon Draisaitl at 950. And Carter Verhaeghe, Gustav Forsling, and Sam Reinhart would be the next three. And then rounding out I picked the top six for each side. Zach Hyman, Stuart Skinner, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So right now, where everything stands, would we agree? I mean, is it the odds-on favorite? Is it McDavid? Is the fact that he's only got 5 goals maybe hurt him in that consideration a little bit? Bobrovsky really stepped up last series. Barkov has just been Mr. Consistent throughout the playoffs. So a few different ways that we could go here.
Yeah, I still think it's McDavid. I think that you look at the rest of the group there, like you said, Draisaitl, Bouchard, Nugent Hopkins, they're all kind of similar and close in points together. I think, McDavid has he's got 31 points to Draisaitl's 28. Yeah, I think it's got to be McDavid. But like you said earlier, if somehow Stuart Skinner has this monster series where he's able to get this team, I think he's going to get he'll get more consideration over the Draisaitl's and Bouchards of the world, even the Hymans of the world, who, has the most goals on the team with 14. But I'm going to stick with McDavid being the guy. I just think it just makes too much sense for your face of the NHL, who not only leads the team in points, but has just been, such a force in this playoffs this year. And we talked about how big he was in the Dallas series. And if he has another big series here, I think he's got to be the odds-on favorite to win it.
I think that's fair. I think for me on the Florida side, it's probably I feel like whatever team wins the Stanley Cup, they will also the player will win the Conn Smythe. There's more than enough choices on each end that it wouldn't have to go to the opposing team unless, I don't know, some miracle happens on ice. But to me, it's on the Florida side. Bobrovsky seems like the obvious choice. If it's not going to him, it's going to Barkov. Those are the two shortest odds. Just makes sense. On the Edmonton side of things, though, Evan Bouchard is plus 950. A couple of shows ago, we had him at plus 3,000. So I think there was some value there. So since you already bet Evan Bouchard plus 3,000, we don't have to go back and look at it now at plus 950. There's no real value that's there. Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. The Edmonton Oilers go as far as he does. So it's like, are we betting against them again? No, I don't think so. You can sprinkle most of, I guess, your dollar bills there. To me, the interesting one here is Zach Hyman at plus 10,000. Like, Zach Hyman currently leads the NHL playoffs in goals. And I understand where he scores in front, but hockey's about scoring goals, and he does that consistently. He has done it all year. He is now doing it here in the playoffs, and he's doing it the exact same way. He's going to those areas, and the puck touches him in some way and ends up in the back of the net. And that is, again, what hockey is about, putting the puck in the net, and he has done that. At 10,000 to 1, as Kevin Malone from The Office once said, if somebody gives you 10,000 to 1 on something, you probably should take it. And I most definitely will. Because let's say he scores, 5 or 6 goals in this series, which is not impossible for Zach Hyman, considering the power play that he plays on and the line mate that he has 5-on-5. Not an impossible task here. Let's say he flirts with 19 or 20 goals here in the playoffs. It's hard to look at him and say no. It's exceptionally hard. The same way we looked at Austin Matthews, if he had scored 70 goals, about winning, most valuable player, and you're like, yeah, there's others, but 70 goals in the modern NHL is quite something as well. So I think it's the same argument, at least for me, for Zach Hyman here. If he can hit that number, it's going to be really hard to look at him and say, I know that others helped you get there, but you can't discredit what he's done.
Now, couldn't you make the same argument for Sam Reinhart leading the team in scoring? He's got a few other guys. He's got a goalie and a couple other guys that would be more of an obvious choice on paper. If Reinhart keeps scoring, and he does a lot of work on the power play too, you can make the same argument there, plus 7,500.
You could, but it's not 10,000.
Right.
That's what it is. To me, that's what it is. Sam Reinhart is he has been he's been very good. To me, I feel like it is harder for Sam Reinhart to win it on his team than it is for Zach Hyman to win it on his. And I know that's saying something because Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. But I just feel like everybody expects Connor McDavid to be elite and to like, it's no shock that he's leading his team in points or that he's doing what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like the bar for him is so high. And like you said, maybe some voters say, hey, he only had 5 goals, which is great because it means that everybody else is benefiting from it, which is a good thing in hockey, right? Your teammate's supposed to make the rest of the teammates better. But to me, again, at 10,001, I just feel like that's a stretched odd right there. Like if you're leading the NHL in goals, and you're that far back as to winning it, I feel like there's a ton of value there, even if it doesn't hit.
What we haven't really talked about Matthew Tkachuk here. What does he have to do to kind of take the lead there for Florida to win? He's got 19 points right now, only 5 goals, 14 assists. But that, what was it, plus 550, I think it was he's at?
Plus 550.
I feel like that is, considering where he's at right now, I'm considering that's a good move right there.
The thing Tkachuk has going for him is when he has an impact on a series, he's not to say he's flashy about it, but it's obvious that he's having an impact, whether it's scoring, whether it's his physical play, whether it's just that's a kind of, so if he's having that kind of an impact, then I think and it's more of a higher scoring series, which I don't think we're really expecting, although it wouldn't be surprising either because of the amount of talent on the ice. Then I think that that favors him. For me, if this is more of a tight, low scoring series like we saw him a lot of both conference finals, then I think that starts to favor Bobrovsky for Florida. But I think if Edmonton wins the series, yes, it would be on Stuart Skinner's performance. But I think for Edmonton to win the series, they're going to need McDavid and Draisaitl to start lighting the lamp like crazy. So I think if Edmonton wins, it's going to be because it's more of a higher scoring series that they figure it out and they figure out a way to start scoring, and it'll be one of those two horses. So for me, it's more Bobrovsky and the goaltending end of it. If it's Edmonton, it's probably more, odds-on favorite McDavid or Draisaitl. Gustav Forsling's name we hadn't talked about yet, and I keep seeing his name being thrown around a little bit. They don't give it to defensemen often. We were talking, Miro Haskin in previous round. We've talked about Evan Bouchard, but is he a realistic chance, or is it just between Bobo and Barkov and Tkachuk, there's just too much there?
There's too much there to give it to Gustav Forsling. He's been great. He's been great for his team. He's a key part of that success. But again, like he's got to beat out all these other players in front of him, and I don't think that it's capable. It's the same thing for Tkachuk, right? You're like, well, what does he have to do? He needs Barkov to, I don't know, fall off the face of the earth. He needs Bobrovsky to fall off the face of the earth. Like he has to go that far. When we watched Tkachuk last year in the playoffs, he was very noticeable at every point of every series. You knew that he was there. He was clutch. The moments that were there, not that Barkov wasn't good, but Matthew Tkachuk was the engine that drove that team. I can't say that's true this time. And that's fair because I think Florida is a better team this year than they were last year. There are lots of key parts there that are helping this team advance. But then what you do is you dilute the vote because there's so many options at that point that you can choose that it doesn't shock everybody. To me, last year, it was Matthew Tkachuk. That was the obvious choice because he drove the engine for that team. This year, it's not as obvious, and that hurts his chances because there are other players that you could give it to.
Last year, they needed Tkachuk to be that guy to get as far as they did this year. Not to say they didn't need him being at his best, but they didn't need him to literally put the, because last year they had a few injuries too, and he had to throw the team on his back. This year, he had way more help. So, yeah, I think at this point, if it's Florida, I'm leaning more towards Bobrovsky. It's Edmonton. It's one of the big two there.